before reservations, before treaties broken, before their names were changed. Subscribe to History Unveiled, where we honor the faces and stories America tried to erase. South Dakota, Wounded Knee. United States soldiers bury Lakota men, women, and children in a mass grave. Bodies frozen in the positions where they fell. December cold, preserving the evidence of massacre. Over 200 killed, many unarmed. The final chapter of the Indian Wars written in frozen blood. Tom Torlino, Navajo. Before and after portrait by John Choate at Carlisle Indian School. The transformation forced upon him between 1882 and 85. Haircut, traditional clothing replaced. Identity stripped away through policy disguised as education. Cultural genocide captured in 2 photographs. Carlisle operated for nearly 40 years doing this. Apache prisoners at Fort Bowie, Arizona. Warriors who defended their homeland now held behind walls. Faces bearing the weight of captivity. Freedom exchanged for confinement in their own ancestral territory. Rosebud Indian Reservation, South Dakota. Lakota children Thomas New, Alice Lowfly, Harry with Horns, Standing Little Tail, and Jesse Foote still embracing traditional culture before assimilation attempts. Young faces at the threshold of forced change. Their expressions hold defiance and uncertainty about what comes next. Within months, many would be sent to boarding schools far from home. Chief Joseph of the Nez Perce, first known solo portrait, taken shortly after surrender near the Canadian border. Behind him lies 1,400 miles of flight from Army forces. Legendary resistance that drew national sympathy but ended in betrayal. His people exiled from homeland forever. The cost of survival visible in his eyes. Cheyenne prisoners, Kansas. Tangle hair, wild hog, strong left hand. Interpreter George Reynolds, Old Crow, Noisy Walker, Porcupine, and Blacksmith. 7 warriors accused of killing settlers during Northern Cheyenne exodus. The widely publicized trial ended with all charges dismissed. Their ledger art created during imprisonment survives as rare testimony. The ledger drawings show their perspective of events. Crow Creek, South Dakota. Mass grave revealing ancient violence between indigenous groups. Archaeological evidence of massacre predating European contact by centuries. Skeletons showing trauma that killed hundreds. Intertribal conflict long before colonization arrived. Minnesota Prairie. Whitney's Gallery stereograph, titled People Escaping from the Indian Massacre, actually shows mixed bloods rescued by non-hostile Dakota. Girl wrapped in striped blanket is Elise Robertson, sister of Thomas Robertson who mediated between hostile Dakota. Lot Y, Idaho, Spring. Nez Perce group known as Chief Joseph's Band. Community gathered before the long flight to Canada begins. Families still together. Homeland still beneath their feet. Months before everything changes. San Carlos Apache Reservation, late 1870s. Western Apaches receiving government rations. Forced dependency replacing self-sufficiency. Hunters reduced to waiting in line for food they once provided themselves. Survival through surrender to the system. Genoa Indian Industrial School, Nebraska. 4th grade classroom. Children sitting in rows learning English, Christian doctrine, American customs. One of over 500 boarding schools operating since 1801. National Native American Boarding School Healing Coalition now documents what happened in these rooms. Thousands of children never returned home from these schools. Dakota Wars. Native warriors assembled. Communities defending territory against encroachment. The conflict that would lead to exile, executions, concentration camps. Resistance before the fall. Apostoka at concentration camp. Indigenous people imprisoned on their own land. Held without trial, without release date. Survival measured in enduring another winter behind wire. Dakota woman and child at concentration camp. Mother holding infant in captivity. Trying to preserve normalcy, dignity, family bonds while confined. Maternal protection persisting through imprisonment. Many families were separated in these camps. Northwest Utah. Uinta Ute warrior and bride on horseback. Photographed by John Hillers. Traditional wedding customs, continuing despite encroaching changes. Love and ceremony persisting. Two lives joined while the world around them transforms. Campsite in woods. General Crook, Geronimo, Captain Roberts, Nana, Lieutenant Mouse, Captain Burke, 3 interpreters, and other Apache gathered. Negotiation between unequal powers. Military officers and Apache leaders discussing terms that favor only one side. Geronimo, Goyle, portrait by Frank Reinhardt, face of Apache resistance, the leader who evaded capture longer than any other. Photographed after final surrender, dignity intact despite defeat. Sitting Bull, Lakota chief and holy man, famous for victory over Custer at Little Bighorn. Later joined Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. Photographed by D.F. Barry, spiritual leader turned showman by necessity. Survival requiring compromise with the spectacle of conquest. Wild West shows toured Europe with native performers. Chief Joseph, Bismarck, North Dakota, wearing decorated sash. Nez Perce leader in formal portrait after surrender. Traditional regalia maintained. Pride preserved through clothing and bearing despite loss of everything else. Red Cloud, photographed by Charles Milton Bell during delegation visit to Washington. Oglala Lakota leader who fought successfully against forts along Bozeman Trail. One of few chiefs to win a war against the United States. His later years spent negotiating from diminished position, beyond conflict. Daily life continued with resilience. Navajo woman weaving at her loom. Sheep graze on nearby ledge. Stone and earth Hogan stands in background. Wooden crate reading, Charles unsweetened evaporated milk, sits close by. Traditional craft meeting modern commerce. Two worlds occupying the same frame. Orabe Pueblo, Arizona. Hopi snake dance ceremony. Men dancing in decorated skirts, moccasins, feathers, necklaces, bracelets. Bodies painted white. Priest in foreground holds snake in his mouth. Spectators watch from multi-tiered Pueblo dwellings. Ancient ritual performed before curious observers. This ceremony continues today in modified form. Late 19th century. Native American man posed outdoors for ethnographic documentation. Images like this often accompanied biased text. Indigenous peoples visually recorded and misrepresented during colonial era. Photography used as tool of categorization and control. Camp Supply, Oklahoma. Powder face. Arapaho man wearing breast ornaments of hair pipes. Sits on buffalo skin with wife and baby. Family portrait preserving domestic life. 3 generations captured in moment of togetherness. Young Hopi woman grinding corn for flour inside adobe dwelling. Kneeling behind wooden trough with grinding stones. Small window at right, open door ahead. Ancient techniques sustained through generations. Food preparation as cultural continuity. Grand River, South Dakota, spring. Family of Sitting Bull posed in dooryard where the chief was killed weeks earlier. Photographed by D.F. Barry. Grief inhabiting the space where violence occurred. Family persisting despite assassinated patriarch. Sitting Bull's death came during efforts to suppress the ghost dance. William Penn Adair, Cherokee delegate to United States Congress in Washington. Cropped from group photograph. Tribal representative navigating federal bureaucracy. Diplomacy through presence and persistence. Pocatello, Idaho. Photographed by Benedict Rinstead, identified by anthropologist Joanna Scherer during Smithsonian's Handbook of North American Indians project. Studio portrait preserving individual identity. Commercial photography documenting indigenous presence. American Horse the Elder, Oglala Lakota leader and negotiator. Face weathered by decades of resistance and diplomacy. Elder statesman who witnessed transformation of the plains. Chief Louison, Flathead, Montana. Photographed by N.A. Forsyth from Montana Historical Society. Tribal leadership documented during early 20th century transition. Authority maintained through changing times. The Flathead people call themselves Salish. Chief Spotted Eagle, Sans Arc, Lakota. One of 7 Lakota tribes. Leadership portrait capturing dignity and presence. Authority conveyed through bearing and gaze. Canyon de Chelly, Arizona. Navajo weaver photographed by Carl Moon. Traditional textile work continuing in ancestral landscape. Craft connecting past and present through fiber and pattern. Young Ute woman photographed between 1880 and 1900. Individual portrait during era of intense cultural pressure. Youth facing uncertain future while maintaining traditional dress. Chief American Horse and Chief Red Cloud, Oglala, Lakota. Seated with Frank North, military scout, and Buffalo Bills, Wild West show participant. Photographed by D.F. Barry. Indigenous leaders and showman collaborator. Complex relationships formed through necessity. Crow Hunter, Montana. Photographed by L.A. Huffman. Traditional clothing and weapon displayed. Hunter maintaining practices that sustain communities for generations. Skills passed down despite shrinking territory. The Crow called themselves Absoluk. Kiatadi, also known as Lata Atsi, from Laguna Pueblo, New Mexico. Photographed by Carl Moon. Individual identity preserved through dual naming, maintaining both traditional and assigned names. Matawit Yanktonai, meaning grizzly bear or mad bear or foolish grizzly bear. Photographed by Alexander Gardner from National Anthropological Archives. Documentary photography preserving faces for institutional collections. 6 Native American men in traditional dress inside Pope Toledo automobile. Ancient and modern technology meeting. Indigenous people engaging with industrial age on their own terms. Adaptation without surrender. These faces witnessed the transformation of a continent. Their descendants carry forward what could not be taken. History unveiled preserves what others forgot.